just as an introduction to the next phase of our shir.
Introduction, no?
To the next phase of our shir. This is really, so to speak, a different phase. This is one of the most difficult hamsheichim. You see this? We had a little taste of it in the short Ayin Base. But this is a different ball game.
This is harder.
Huh?
This is harder.
This is what's called, one time a bocher, a yingele, who was going to become a mitzvah. And he was brought into the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said to him, asked him, do you like sports? He said, yes. What sports do you like? Baseball. Come on, Rabbi, baseball. Do you play baseball? Oh yeah. Do you ever go to the ballpark to see others play? Sure. Why do you have to go and see over there? You're playing yourself. Rabbi, come on, Rabbi. This is child's play. This is the real thing. So the Rebbe said, up until now, your learning and all your behavior was amateur. Now you're coming into the real thing.
That's what we're doing now.
Hopefully you won't strike out.
So far it was child's play.
We already started this hamshik one time before.
We're actually going to the major leagues. We're not watching.
We started, and I saw it was much difficult. But now it's different. But number one, you learn patience. You learn that you do not get the whole story in one line, in one-liners, or not even in a whole page. You have to it takes time until, and I saw that we realized that Rebbe says something, people used to just jump in question. Poof, wait a second. Let the Rebbe say his say, then you'll see what the Rebbe is saying. And here, Rebbe's got a lot to say. And this is only one of two volumes, actually one of three volumes. The third volume is a little thinner than this.
And it's all one hamshach, all the 3 volumes?
Essentially, it's a hamshach, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So therefore, it goes into all kinds of details that perhaps I almost tries get us personally involved and get a kind of personal sense, meaning in what we're learning. But here in the beginning, it's not going to be that readily available. Eventually, everything will shine up, brighten up.
What's eventually?
When is eventually?
Which matters?
That's your first test.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Shigdimu Yisrael Nase Nishma. This is Gemara. At the time when Yisrael put ahead, preceded in their response, and they said Nase before Nishma. This is a principle which we discuss all the time. Nase kodem Nishma. Yordu Malachi Hashoris. So Malachim descended from heaven. And they tied on the heads of the Eden Shnei Ksorim 2 crowns. Echad Keneged Nase, Echad Keneged Nishma. One represented the Nase, and they they presented it in the form of a crown, and the Echad Keneged Nishma, one representing Nishma. Everybody knows what Nasa Nishma means, right? Mashmo is Inyan, who? What seems to be the simple implication? The Mash and Nitnolohem Aksorim, that the fact that the Ksorim, the crowns, were given to them, that seems to be the simple implication. It is because they preceded Nasa to Nishma. This is what merited them to get this crown. But if they had said it in the normal, natural way, on Nishma before Nasa, then they would not have been given the two crowns. Mipnei, Blefi, because Shehashmiyahu Bishvil Hoasiya. Because when it says Nishma Benasa, this is a natural process. In order to do, you have to first hear. So therefore, there are no two things here. There is primarily the Asiya, and the Nishma is a Hachona, is a preamble for the Asiya. So therefore, there is only one thing. This is how this seems to be implying at first. Then, when it follows after that, and it says that the Malachim gave him two crowns. Echad neged Nasa. One corresponding to Nasa, etc. One corresponding to Nasa, one corresponding to Nishma, Mashma. That seems to be saying Shashnei Kisodim Hein Rak Meshum Sheomru Nasa Benishma. Now the two Kisodim are only because they said Nasa Benishma. They said these two things, Nasa and Nishma. Not because of the order preceding Nasa to Nishma, but that's because it said Nasa and Nishma, two things, Nasa and Nishma. Shareine Eimer. Since that it does not say that the two crowns were given to them, Echad neged Nasa v'Nishma. One corresponded to Nasa and Nishma together. Ve'echad neged Mashi Igdimo, Nasa v'Nishma, and one because they preceded one to the other. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that they gave him a crown because they preceded it. He gave him a crown, two crowns, one corresponding to Nasa and one corresponding to Nishma. Therefore, the Yisroim that merited them the crown is not because Higdimu, because they preceded. Because finally, when he got the crown, he says clearly, Echad Keneged Nasa, Echad Keneged Nishma. Two crowns because Nasa and Nishma, not because of the preceding. So that seems to be, in a certain sense, that the first part of this statement seems to be implying something different than the conclusion of the statement. We also want to understand the fact that the Ksorim were given to Eden through Malachim, which means indirectly Malachim came and gave him the Ksorim. But we find elsewhere in Medrash on Pasha Kedoshim, say Pasha Chov Dalet, it says over there, Moshe Lemelech, that this is compared to a king, Shebnei Hamdino Osolei Gimo Atoris. The Bnei Hamdino, the people of his country, made for him 3 crowns. As it goes on to say that they offered the king 3 crowns. So the similar thing, so similarly the Elyonim, the Malachim and so forth, they actually present HaKadosh Baruch Hu with 3 crowns every day. Shehein Gimel Kadeshes, which is represented in the form of the 3 kadosh, the 3 kadoshes. These are 3 crowns that they offer to the Beis. And then this is a morsel for a melech to whom the Bnei Amdina presented 3 crowns, not al echod. So then the king takes one of the crowns, and he places it upon his own head. And 2 of the crowns, nosem bereish bono. Then he places the other 2 on this head of his sons. That's how the medrash presented, a completely different medrash. Hare, but what do we say from that second medrash? The nesin as ho'ator is hu me'akodesh baruch bi'atzmai, that the placing of the atores upon the children is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. But here the medrash says that the Malachim placed the crowns upon the heads of the. Okay. So this is one thing that we need to understand. Why over here it says Malachim, and over there that it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself places the crowns. But then however, there's another aspect that still that it corresponds to here. Gam Shom Eimer Ho'el Machtim. That there too, it says yes, it's true. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one places the crowns upon his sons, like the Melech places the crowns on them. But who presents the crowns? Ho'el Machtim. The Malachim are the ones who are presenting the crowns. So in both cases, the Malachim are involved. In our case, the Malachim are the ones who are actually crowning the children. In the other case, the Melech crowns, but the presentation of the crowns comes from Malachim also. So the Malachim are involved in both instances. So we want to understand what Malachim all of a sudden. Behinei b'mishnah de'ovis. So it's going to take a while before we come to discussing this in. You take it for granted. Okay, let's just get in here. Behinei b'mishnah de'ovis iso. In a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos it says, Gimel Ksarim Heim, there are 3 crowns. Keser Teira, the Keser Kahuna, the Keser Malchus. The Keser, the crown of Teira, and Kahuna, and Malchus. And then it says in the Mishnah, the Keser Shem Toiv, Oile Al Gabeya. And then there's the Keser Shem Toiv. The Keser, or what's called a good name, Oile Al Gabeya rises above the other crowns. So we have 2 questions coming from that Mishnah. Number 1, Hare. We see there, Sheyesh Gimel Ksot, that in fact there are 3 Ksot. V'kano Ema Shekoshelhem Rak Beis Ksot. Here it says that there are only 2 crowns, but actually Mishnah said there are 3 crowns. V'gam Tzorech Lohovin. And then furthermore, in that Mishnah itself, that says that there are 3 crowns and names them. So we have a question in the Mishnah itself. Mishnah. What the Mishnah says, Gimel Ksarim Hein, that there are 3 crowns. But actually, when he enumerates them, Hein, Harei, B'chot is in Dalsot. In actual fact, there are 4 crowns. Im Keser Shem together with Keser Shem Tov, that the Mishnah said that rises above the other 3 crowns. So there are in fact 3 crowns. Why then the Keser Shem Tov is not is not included when you give me when you said that how many crowns there are. There are 4 crowns. Why in the number of crowns you say there is only 3 crowns? B'yomer, and the Mishnah should have said, Dalet ksorim hey. And in fact, there are 4 ksorim because the Kesser Shem Tov is also a Kesser. Begam, also we need to understand, Mahu haloshoin sho'oile al gabeihen, that the Kesser Shem Tov rises on top of the other ksorim. So all of this we need to understand. Why you say 3 crowns, and what is the meaning of one rises up above and so forth. Ine hagim uksorim, the 3 ksorim that the Mishnah mentions, which is Keser Teira, Keser Kahuna, Keser Malchus. So these 3 ksorim, the derech klal hein behagimul kavi. In general, these 3 ksorim represent the 3 kavim, the 3 pathways, the 3 lines. We'll see in a minute what the 3 kavim are. Kav means a line. The keser kahuna, the keser of kahuna, hu bekav hayimin. It is in the right line. Just very briefly, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. There is chesed, gvura, tiferes. And chesed, gvura, tiferes, chesed is yamin, gvura is small, gvura is on the left side, and tiferes is in the middle. So these are the 3 lines, 3 kavim. And kahuna, kesed kahuna, this represent the chesed, which is the right. B'kav ha'imin. Excuse me. U'kiyodua dekeyen u'bechinas ha'chesed. As we know that the keyen is bechinas ha'chesed. The keyen represent chesed. K'mishakosu, the pasuk says, Ve'ato kohen liyoilo. Okay, here already we have to begin to pay attention. Ato kohen liyoilo. This pasuk, Ato kohen liyoilo, this is a pasuk in Tehillim, I'm sure you're familiar. This pasuk tells us something about the Inyan from kohen. That kohen, in this pasuk, it's related what type of midah, what kind of quality is kohen. That kohen is chesed, is on the right side. Why is it? How is it imply on the right side? The kohen al bechinas hachesed. That actually is implying the bechinas hachesed. Why? The ato hu bechinas gilui. Because ato is the element of gilui. Gilui means full revelation. Shezehu ha'hefresh, which is in fact the difference between ato lehu. The difference between ato and hu. Hu is in third person. Hu means he. Ato means you in first person. And the difference is a significant difference. The ato lenoichach. Ato means lenoichach, that you are actually facing and going first person directly. You're facing directly that the one that you're speaking to. The chesed hu bechinas gilui, and the inyan of gilui is a chesed. The hu reish is gilui hamidos, and in fact chesed is the starting point of gilui of midos shenikro gam ken yoy. Midas are also called Yoim. You know that the 7 days represent the 7 days. וכמו שכוסף בסידור בפירוש ברוך שאומר.
Rosh Hashanah v'Aya Olam.
Yeah,
This is
in the Siddur.
Chesed, Yom.
Huh?
That shows Chesed and Yom going to.
No. In the Siddur, in explaining Baruch She'omar, he talks about Yoim, and the Midas is Yoim.
Midas is Chesed.
Midas are Yoim, and the beginning of Midas is Chesed.
Uh-huh.
Chesed is the initial Midas, that which initiates Midas.
Okay.
All right, we'll have to wait with the elaboration of this. Ook met je kosten maar maak je mag. Zo, I'm saying no, ook de keizer Malchus. So chesed in Hagilo, that is the kav ha'imin. Then there is the keizer Malchus, who bekav hasmol. Keizer Malchus is on the left line, which is in from Gvura. The Harei Malchus Ike Binyano Hu Me Hagvuris. Because Malchus is principally built from Gvuris. Lihayois the Hizhavus Biyah, being that the creation of Biyah, V'chol Ha'am Shochetz V'Agiluim B'Biyah, and everything that comes into Biyah, and that is Nisvil in Biyah, HaKoil Hu Alidei HaMalchus. It is all through the midah, to the spheres HaMalchus. Al Kein Binyono Himi Hagvuris. This is why the binyan of Malchus is also from Gvur. Ve'al Kein, and thus, Gam, just to put your mind at ease, after we get the full presentation, we'll put it in perspective. Gam ha-keser Malchus ubekam ha-smol. Keser Malchus is therefore, Malchus is the Gvura. Keser Malchus is also in Kav ha-smol. That Keser has to do with Kav ha-smol with Gvuras. The Keser of Gvuras. And then there's the third Keser, Keser Teiro. Keser Teiro, Hu bekav hoem tzoyi. And Keser Teiro, that is in the middle line. I said before, there is a right, a left, and the middle. Kumeida, as is known, Behagimul Dvorim, the 3 inyonim of Torah, Aveda, Gemilos Chasodim, the Torah he became Hamsoy. The Torah represents the Kam Hamsoy, the middle line. All right, just so that we will not be losing the whole thing. Although this is just, as I said, only a beginning. Just like in Yeminu, Small Ain Emtza is actually present in the human being. Everything has it in the human being. It is very blatantly obvious. The right hand is the most the most forthcoming. In terms of a person's activities, if a person wants to come forward and do something externally, what hand does he use? The right hand.
If he's the righty.
Normally, it's a righty, and if he's a lefty, so by him, his midah chesed is in the left. But the principle of it is that this is a midah chesed. Because in order to be forthcoming and extend oneself out of oneself into something else, there has to be the principle of chesed. In other words, if one would be concerned about closing himself in and be internal to himself, not showing his feelings, not showing what he stands for, and just containing himself, then he would not express himself. Expressing himself is already a year of chesed, overflow, showing what is contained in his mind, what is contained in his heart.
Why is it chesed? Expressive, why is it a favor?
Huh?
Chesed, let's say, is something to a favor, something good to other people. Why is this?
Well, this is what I mean. At the minimum, chesed is that which recognizes the other, gives cognizance of the other, and does not want to make a separation, but wants to include. And we see it naturally the way it is. That's why chesed is attributed to the right, because everything that a person does primarily is from the right hand. If it's a lefty, it's the same thing. It's achlifu duchtayu. The little confusion over there, but it's the same quality.
What was that? What was the expression?
Achlifu duchtayu. They interchange their positions. Achlifu means interchange their positions, but essentially it's the same principle.
What's the second word to it? Achlifu?
Duchtayu, their places.
Duchtayu?
I'm not going to quote if you need to believe me. Just
I just wanted to understand
yeah, I
the
understand.
meaning of the word.
Achlifu, I know, I'm sorry. They interchange their positions. That's an expression. I'm sorry. I just want to, we're going to go into this, introduce very briefly the whole phenomenon of midas. You say midas, this is the structure of the nefesh. Midas essentially is the complement of the persons. We're talking a person has a certain idea. In order to develop this idea, it broadens out into a whole array of detail. This is the principle of midas. Like we always say, that in essential, in initial thought is what we call a monodimensional. You want monodimensional? Means a single dimension, a single point. Like I say in Chochmah, it's a single point. And a single point does not really encompass anything, does not really represent anything. Then afterwards, from this single point comes a whole development, and it comes into what's called Mokim Zman. It develops into a full array of a structure and so forth. Let me, based on the examples that we already spoke many times before. We speak about a home. And a home, we pointed out, a home is something which is what's called an essential element, an essence. It's a principal element. It's not just a functional element, it's a principle. If it's a principle, it means that it actually is not correct. It cannot be fully identified on a functional level. In a home, you sleep, you eat, and that's not what a home is. Home is an essential principle. This is the way it is in the essence of the nefesh. Odom she'ein Beis ain't Odom. It's not a human being. That's the way it is in the nefesh. But then, from that, it comes down, and it comes into seichel, it comes into the world, and it develops, so to speak, based on worldly parameters. And in the world, in order to be a home, it's not enough that you have a point of presence. It has to be multidimensional. You have to have a place where you can build 4 walls and bring in furnishings. In other words, there it consists of many things. It's no longer one nakuda. But to represent this nakuda in the world, you have to have all of these details. Altogether, they're presenting this one nakuda. So all of these aspects that go into representing this nakuda, this is initially it is in seichel, and then it comes into midos. Then it comes into midos. Which means, in terms of our terms, a person has a place in the world. Does he have a place, this place that he has in the world? Is this something which is known only to himself? Or this is something which is a presence in the world and it's known to others as well? He has this place. This is not a conceptual thing, this is a reality. At that point, when it's a reality, it has a full array of development. A left and a right and a left and a middle.
Somehow this house and these details correspond to midas, emotions, rather than seichel.
The development, the showing of everything is always in the different midas.
Okay.
The showing?
Yeah. Seichel gives support to the midas, gives inspiration to the midas. But essentially it is the midas where there's the actualization of this principle of this home. That's called actualization in okay, just one word about this and we'll get the statement from the Gemara Odom she'ein Beis ain't Odom is talking about the human being. He is not. He is missing the union from being a human being. He's as a homeless. He's not. He's not a Adam. But actually, when it comes down to the reality of the person, it is not a question of him, what type of person he is. The question is, what is his presence in the world? Because Adam, where was Adam created? In Gan Eden? Adam was created here in this world. So the presence of Adam is not in himself, but in the world. Therefore, when you say, Onesh Bais and Adam, so we are talking about an essential level, but actually, when it develops in the full array in the worldly presence. And there you have all the midas. You have the midah chesed, midah gvura, midah nefesh. Just one nekuda about chesed and gvura and tiferes. All activities, all human activities, because a human being is a real presence. He's a bar seichel. He's not an animal. It's not. Things are not happening just beteva, just naturally and reactively. It is all intentional. There is intent. There is a reality there. So if a person were just chesed, he's just opening up and let things flow the way they come, then his own presence is totally lost. Where are you? Do you have an identity, or all you are is a conduit for the flow of the water? Do I have you with me? In other words, in every human activity, we have used the following analogy. A person wants to benefit other people, and he has wealth. He wants to help people out. There are two ways he can do this. There are multiple ways, but one way is for the purposes of our discussion. He has his treasure house. He opens up the treasure house. People come and take whatever they want to take. It's beautiful. So people get what they want, but they what's lacking there? The principle that they were given it. They're not given anything. They can take it. If the person does not, has just a little modification to that, he says, come to the window and tell me how many members you have in your family, and I'll give you. And he'll give you exactly what you ask for. But then there is a sense of giving, concern. There's a giver and a recipient. So when we talk about a person whose giluim comes from his seichel, and then he comes into midas, into chesed, there has to be a gvura along with it. Without gvura, the individual is lost completely. In other words, if it's without any plan, without any containment, just an open flow, it's not a chesed. It's not called chesed. Chesed means that it comes in a focused form and direction.
What is it called? If
What?
it's not chesed, what is it called?
If it's not chesed, then it's not coming from this person.
Where's it coming from?
It's coming from his treasure house. It's not him.
Oh.
This is why in midas are the real midas of a human being, which means that the human being is providing the inyan of the midas. He is providing the chesed. He is providing the tiferes and gvura. Then there are three kavim, three midas. There is a chesed and there is the gvura, that which contains the chesed. Make it focused. And then there is, in the middle, there is the tiferes. This is a kind of a perfect balance between chesed and gvura. Because the tendency of chesed is to just let him have it. The tendency of gvura is, wait a second, he has to deserve it. And then there's the inyan from the tiferes, which combines the two. As we shall discuss in from Kav HaMtzoy. So we are saying that Torah is in Kav HaMtzoy. And that we can readily see. Torah is giving all kinds of blessings. But there's not a single blessing that does not have some kind of a precondition. Nothing comes gratis. Gratis isn't klipa. Gratis means free.
Say it again?
Gratis.
Gratis. Okay, I did not know the word. Gratis.
Nothing comes gratis. In klipa, it's gratis. Kedusha is not gratis. Kedusha is focused, and there is a giver and a recipient.
It's still free.
Huh?
It's still free. The giver and recipient. But that doesn't mean that it's not for free when there's a giver and a recipient.
No, it's not for free because the recipient deserves that gift, and he's and he's focused. What will you do with this?
He deserves it means that he deserves it. It doesn't. If he deserves it, then it's for him. He doesn't have to give it back or so.
Why is it give it back? No, the giver gives it to him because there is a purpose in giving it to him. This is in general the three kavim, and this is something which is we'll discuss it. This is the whole world is structured along these three kavim. And in human life. So I'll point out, since we are completing, I have to cut off. I have a meeting right away. In all interhuman relations, whether it is internal to the home or outside, there has to be both qualities. Yes, there's an openness, but not hefker. On the other hand, this restraint is not a categorical restraint. This restraint is with a meaning. Like we said a long time ago, we said, the halacha says that an oni, that a poor person who is traveling, so it's incumbent upon the community through which he passed that he should give him his meal. He should give him one extra meal for the journey. Although he's not going to eat this meal in the journey, because by the end of the journey he's going to reach the next community. But he has to have this extra meal in his pocket, because in the nefesh odom, in the sense of well-being in a person, there are two things. It is what he has, and that there is more where this came from. This is an important element. In all things that there are, the chesed, gvura, and Tevet, the gvura is always kind of muted, is modified by the chesed. Yes, this is all you're getting, but this is not all you're getting. So that there is both. There's a sense of a limit, but there's also a sense of an opening for further response. This is the pshat that there is chesed, gvura, and Tevet, three midas, and these are the three. In avodah, this is, as I said, the gvura, chesed, gvura, and Tevet. Okay, this is all I can do for today, and hopefully, at least one thing we know: it's pretty tough.
It's heavy.
Huh?
Heavy.
Heavy.
Can we just
So-
end off by saying how we got into focusing about meters? How did that relate back to where we were?
He said three kavim.
Yeah, the three crowns, the
Crowns.
cabins. Okay, perfect.
All right, I have to run.
So-
Mamash have to
Yeah.
yeah.